Hello, friends. We are here together for the next 10-ish minutes to talk about the skill and power of taking notes. Why taking notes? Taking notes has gotten me through life. Do you know the number one reason I take notes? So that I don't get bored. It's true. Sitting in meetings, reading things from a book, being in class. Why do I take notes? It keeps my brain engaged so that when it starts to think, when's the next time we're going to eat? What's a good snack that we could have? I say, no, I got to focus because I am taking notes. So good for the brain, friends. And in the context of attacking the CAASPP, California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, performance task, a second reason to do it is that this is what you're working with, right? It's a way to get involved, figure out what's going on, and identify in both math and English language arts what it is that we're even talking about. In this example, I went online and randomly chose fourth grade, which was all about animals and their surroundings, right? And it can be so overwhelming when you first see this huge article. So what do? Grab your best friend, scratch paper, and you start to take notes. Now, should everybody take notes the same way? No. Are everybody's brains the same? No. This is what I love. Taking notes is a lifelong process. My notes today look different than they did when I was in sixth grade, which looked different than when I was in college. You figure out what works for you. All right, what can you play with here? What can you experiment with as you figure out your note-taking style to teach your brain? If you look in the description below, there's a one-page summary of how to take notes. Here we go. There are just 4 steps up at the beginning. Step 1, warm up your brain, which is also called activating schema. Our brains have this schema, right, which is everything that we already know. When you sit down to take notes on anything, first, warm that brain up, right? Think about what you already know. Think about your schema. Let's say the topic is the ocean, right? As you sit down to take notes, be like, what do I already know about this? What do I think of? Think of salty water, surrounding islands. It's actually very cold and dark in the ocean, okay? Warm up your brain as you're sitting down because I always see it as opening up your brain so that it's ready to receive even more information. Step 2, write down the title and underline it. I love a good, simple, clear step. Write down the title and underline it. We're already on step 3. Step 3 is about scanning, right? Where you kind of just look quickly at the whole thing. How long is it? How many paragraphs? Are they long paragraphs? Are they short paragraphs? Are there headings? Scan it, right? So your brain can understand and get a sense of how long you're going to be spending with this article and the kind of stuff that's in there. Finally, step 4, just take it paragraph by paragraph. What I like to do is I read through the paragraph, pause, and then I ask myself, well, what was important here? Then write that down in a way that makes sense to you. I was a senior in high school when it all of a sudden occurred to me, oh my gosh, I can learn anything that I want to. I can find a book about it. Now in this world of ours, you can go online and learn about stuff. And what you do is you just make sense of it and write down your notes. So how do you do that? All right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quick ideas of experimenting with you taking notes in a way that makes sense to you and your brain. Okay, so like here's a sample of some notes that I took on the animals and their surroundings sources. Look at this. Maybe you capitalize keywords to yourself. Boom, this is a word that I want to remember. Maybe you underline, as evidenced by my step 2, underlining the title. I do like underlining, right? It makes my brain, it forces my brain to figure out what's the most important stuff here. I like to underline, experiment with it, see what works for you. It does help me, and this is a little CAASPP specific, but it also helps when you're writing like a huge research paper and you need to remember where you got this information from. I do like numbering the different paragraphs as I'm going along and saying, all right, this was what I get out of the first paragraph. Now I'm in the second paragraph. Numbering the paragraphs can really help when you're going back and using your notes. Spacing. Again, do you have to take notes the way anybody else take notes? No. You do what works for your brain. Guess what helps my brain? Look at this big, beautiful blank paper. Okay? Thank you, scratch paper. Thank you for all the help that you give us in our learning adventures. Check it out. Spacing. You can write down information wherever you want to on this thing. And sometimes, if it's in a new paragraph or you want your brain to remember a list of information, space it out. Put it in a different space on the page. Find what works for you. Have fun with it. Ooh, symbols. I love symbols. Again, it only has to make sense to you. If you want to put stars by key pieces of information that you say, ooh, I know when I'm writing, I'm going to want this, use stars. Asterisks. The exclamation point, I went through a real phase in my note-taking where I just loved that exclamation point, important piece of information. Equals, use it all the time. You don't have to write is, and just do a plus sign, triangles. Again, get crazy, get involved, have fun experimenting with symbols as you're taking notes. What else can you do? Colors. Is there any law that says you need to take notes in black or blue ink? Nope. Okay, look at this. To help my brain remember all the distinct pieces of information that I learned, that, for example, penguins sometimes cuddle to stay warm in their cold environment. Oh, so cute. I will put the information in different colored pens. Can you do that? Yeah. And finally, last suggestion, something to try, use abbreviations. This with makes it so much faster. X, example, versus. So many times if I'm reading and there are two different, pieces of information, I do blank versus blank. Versus. Abbreviation. That's the abbreviation of abbreviation. Taking notes. Okay, getting involved. Putting your brain into it. I love taking notes. I hope you love taking notes. And remember, you can do it any way you want to.